So, you've probably heard the name Avicenna, right? The legendary physician, the father of early modern medicine. But what if I told you that his most famous work is only half the story? We all remember the doctor, but somehow we've forgotten the stargazer. Yeah, when you hear that name, Avicenna, what's the first thing that pops into your head? I'm gonna bet for most of you, it's medicine. Or maybe philosopher, even poet. And look, you're not wrong. But the picture we have of him, it's just not complete. We celebrate the man who mapped the human body, but we've pretty much forgotten the man who mapped the heavens. Okay, take a look at this thing. This device, it's a key to that whole forgotten story. I know, it might not look like much, but trust me, it represents an absolutely brilliant mind at work, a mind that was looking way, way beyond the human body and up into the stars. But before we get to the stars, we gotta start here, on solid ground. I mean, to really get a sense of Avicenna's genius, you first have to understand the field where he became, well, an undisputed legend: medicine. I mean, just think about the weight of this statement. We're talking centuries later, and William Osler, who was one of the founders of Johns Hopkins Hospital, by the way, he didn't just call Avicenna's work a textbook. No, he called it a medical Bible. That one word, Bible, that tells you everything you need to know about its impact. And this was his masterpiece. It's called the Canon of Medicine, finished way back in 1025, and it was just colossal. A 5-volume encyclopedia. But it wasn't just a list of facts, you know? It was the systematic organization of all known medical knowledge at the time, from Greco-Roman and Persian traditions, plus his own incredibly detailed observations. It was so complete that it stayed the standard medical textbook in Europe for over 600 years. So, what was the secret sauce? Why was this book such a game changer? Well, it all comes down to the systematic, logical mind behind it. Let's just look at a couple of examples. First up, Avicenna took the ancient Greek theory of humors and, well, he refined it. In his system, the body was basically governed by 4 qualities: hot, cold, moist, and dry. See, health was all about perfect balance, what he called temperament. So illness, that was just an imbalance. A fever was too much hot, a cough with a bunch of phlegm, too much moist. Now, it might sound a little strange to us today, but it gave doctors a clear, logical way to think about diagnosing and treating people. And this just brilliantly shows his scientific rigor. Check this out. These are Avicenna's 7 rules for testing new drugs. And honestly, they sound astonishingly modern. He's saying the drug has to be pure. You test it for one single illness at a time, you see how strong it is, how long it takes to work, you make sure the effect is consistent, and this is the big one, rule number 7, you have to test it on a human body, not just on animals, because he knew that the effects could be different. This is basically the blueprint for clinical trials 1,000 years ago. So yeah, Avicenna's medical legacy it's monumental. It's more than enough to secure his place in history forever, but his story doesn't stop at the doctor's office. Because while he was so carefully mapping out every function of the human body, he was using that same systematic genius on the cosmos itself. Because it turns out, Avicenna was also a pioneering astronomer, and he was making contributions that Europe wouldn't see again for centuries. I mean, the list of his astronomical achievements is just staggering. He wasn't just some guy thinking about space. He was a hands-on observer. He built an entire observatory. He designed brand new precision instruments. He even observed the transit of Venus. And what's really cool is he used his sharp logic to argue against astrology, trying to separate the real science of the stars from superstition. So why'd he do it all? Well, a lot of this work came from a really practical problem. The ruler of Isfahan, Allah al-Dawla, was super frustrated because the official calendar was all wrong. So he hired Avicenna to fix it. And the only way to do that was to get brand new, super accurate observations of the stars. And that meant, you guessed it, building a whole new observatory. And to make those observations, Avicenna designed this incredible, innovative instrument. So on the left, you're seeing a diagram from his original manuscript, and on the right, there's a modern model built from his plans. This thing was designed to measure the angles of stars and planets with a level of precision that was just totally unheard of at the time. But how on earth did it work? The secret was this super clever method that we now call the vernier principle. Okay, think of it like this. You have a main ruler for the big measurements, right? But then you have a second, smaller ruler that slides right alongside it. By seeing where the lines on both rulers line up perfectly, you can measure the tiny, tiny spaces between the marks on the main ruler. This is what let him measure fractions of a degree with unbelievable precision. It was a massive leap forward in accuracy.
And here's the real kicker. Avicenna invented this method more than 500 years before it was rediscovered in Europe. He wasn't just ahead of his time, he was like in a different century altogether. It's just mind-blown.
But his innovation didn't stop there. He was also tasked with finding the exact longitude of a city, which was a huge problem back then. He couldn't wait for a lunar eclipse, which was the standard way to do it. So he just invented a new method. He used the moon's peak altitude in the sky as a sort of celestial clock to compare against locations where the longitude was already known. Just a brilliant solution to one of the toughest navigational problems of the era. So, when you put it all together, the doctor and the astronomer, a whole new picture of Avicenna starts to emerge. He was a true polymath. I mean, he applied the exact same principles, logic, careful observation, and system building, to both the tiny world of the human body and the vast expanse of the heavens. And that's why this all matters. Avicenna's story really shows us that the scientific method wasn't just born in one field. It was forged by minds like his, people who believed the entire universe, from a human heartbeat to the movement of a planet, operated on a single set of rules that we could actually understand. In the end, it's just so fitting that the man who spent his life looking up at the stars now has his name literally written among them. Both a crater on the moon and an asteroid are named Avicenna, a permanent tribute to a genius whose vision was, well, truly cosmic. So next time you hear his name, I really hope you'll remember not just the doctor, but the Stargazer too.